Website, as we all know, everyone relies on the internet these days, whether you're at home, at work, at play, at school, business, whatever. The internet is an important part of your life. And so this evening, the District Communications and Public Image team are very proud to host Tim Ash and Bernadette Chin Lee, who shall be conducting a very special and timely crash course on website optimization and conversions, the 7 deadly sins of websites. To start the proceedings off, I would introduce one of the presenters, Bernadette Chin Lee. Bernadette is the wife of Christopher Chin Lee, past president of the Rotary Club of Port of Spain and daughter-in-law of Anna Chin Lee, a very well-known Rotarian, past president of the Rotary Club of Maraval. Bernadette is honored to present to District 7030 in her new role as a digital marketing strategist. Bernadette and Chris have 7 wonderful children and have the great pleasure of teaching them the psychology of marketing. Bernadette began her professional career in 2010 when she and Chris were certified by WSI International as a digital marketing agency. Bernadette enjoys social media marketing, blogging, and content creation, as well as search engine optimization. All these services depend on the art of conversion. Without the art of conversion, no one will engage, react, or buy from you. WSI International recently partners with site turners, which deliver the numbers your site is built for. They release the return on investment of websites, be it a basic one-page website or a sophisticated e-commerce website. Bernadette has been certified as a conversion rate optimizer with site turners. Lastly, Bernadette recommends that if you implement what is shared in this presentation, you can realize more phone calls, more contact forms, and more sales. Top it all. Having said that, I will now welcome Bernadette Chin Lee to the microphone for presentation. Bernadette, thank you.
All right, is my mic off? On? Right, it's on. Excellent. All right, so thank you very much for allowing me to present to you. And yes, we hope that by the end of this presentation, you will understand the difference between design and functionality of a website. When people get into building their website, they get very creative, they get very excited. You want to present your website to be the best online. And we get a little carried away with design, and Tim is going to show us why design is great, but we need to focus more on functionality. In a sense, the business world is being thrown into the digital world, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. We've been fighting it a lot, and we think that this is very timely issue topic to be presenting to business owners and brand ambassadors like yourself. And I say brand ambassadors because many of you are also in the C-suite level. Right, so the digital world is quickly embracing us, engulfing us. It's a bit of an abstract world, and most businesses are not sure what is coming around the corner. So we like to keep thinking of what's the future of digital, what's the future of a website, what should I do next, what is going to come around the corner. Even many of us marketers are not too sure, because it is the one that wins is the one that gives the customer the best results. And so as digital marketers, we want to help you to have the best presence on the one online platform that you actually own, which is your website. We want to help you to avoid the 7 deadly sins of websites. And yes, we want the avid buyer. So many of us are avid buyers ourselves, but we're not too sure why it is that we buy. We know that we want to be the best in our industry, but we're not too sure how to do it to make sure that we are the best and we become the best. So WSI and Site Tuners got together, and we want to help you understand and to be able to have the best strategy on your website to influence your buyers, to fill in the form, to call you, or to simply purchase from your carts, because that is the new type of website, which is the e-commerce website. But then again, if you don't understand the 7 deadly sins, you're going to make the same mistake again on your e-commerce website. And we want to avoid that. All right. So Tim Ash. Tim Ash is an acknowledged authority on evolutionary psychology and digital marketing. He is a sought-after international keynote speaker and is a best-selling author of Unleash Your Primal Brain and Landing Page Optimization, 2 books. Tim has been mentioned by Forbes and the top 10 online marketing expert and by Entrepreneur Magazine and as an online marketing influencer to watch out for. For 19 years, he has been the co-founder and CEO of Site Tuners, which is a digital marketing optimization agency. Tim has helped to create over $1.2 billion for companies in the like of Google, Expedia, eHarmony, Facebook, American Express, Canon, Nestle, Symantec, Intuit, Humana, Siemens, and Cisco, just to name a few. So take it away, Tim.
Can you hear me? All good? Okay. We're going to jump right in and talk about the 7 deadly sins of websites. These are very common mistakes that almost all companies and businesses make with their website. So before we start, I know you're all on mute, but I want you to raise your hand and say silently out loud, I am a sinner. I can see you guys, so you got to do it. Raise your hand and say, I am a sinner. Okay. Now, at the end of this hour, you're actually going to believe that, because I can promise you, all of you have at least one of these deadly sins on your website. So let's go through this, and at the end, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. But the main point is you really, as Bernadette mentioned, your website is the only part of your online marketing that you own. It's the only part that you control, that you don't have to pay for access to, and so on. So it's where all of the other marketing efforts are funneled and where they end up, whether they hear about it in a conversation or by online advertising. And I'm going to start with a couple of insults, and then I'll proceed to the main presentation. You're all ignorant and blind. Now, I haven't met most of you personally, so I don't mean it that way. What I mean by that is that we're focused on ourselves. We're focused on our companies, on projecting our company images. And as a result of that, we don't really get too close to the customer. We may pay it lip service, but we don't. My second insult is your baby is ugly. How many of you have children? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up if your baby is ugly. Not too many hands. Well, why is it that no parents think their babies are ugly? We've all seen ugly babies, right? That's where ugly adults come from. But parents don't think their babies are ugly because they nurtured them and raised them and took care of them and put endless care in them. And in much the same way, we can't see the ugly in our babies. So we see our web marketing as more of this red carpet treatment that we're rolling out. When in fact, it's a little bit more like this. From the perspective of your website visitors, they have to scale these castle walls to get at what you have. But it's actually worse than that. I didn't put the guys on top of the wall dumping hot oil on your head or shooting arrows down at you. It's actually a lot worse. So we're going to go through and catalog what I call the 7 deadly sins of landing page design or websites. And you're going to recognize these. But the key part of all of them is I'm going to do this from the perspective of your visitors, because they're the only ones that matter. If you're talking about yourself, about your company, I don't care. If you're talking about me and my needs as a visitor, I'm all in. So let's take a look at these again. The key thing I want you to take away from this webinar is that you need to start thinking not from inside out, from your company to the world, but rather outside in, from the perspective of your visitors. So the very first deadly sin, and I'll recap these at the end, is an unclear call to action. So when somebody gets to your site, is it clear to them what they're supposed to do? And I'm going to pick some of my favorite examples here. What do you think you're supposed to do on this website? And you guys are in the Caribbean, so I'm sure this looks like what the view out of your front door right now, but I'm not sure what to do here. You know, when it happens here is if you click through this, this is literally one of those splash pages, you would get to the homepage of the Sandal World catalog. They sell shoes. Wasn't that obvious to you? Wasn't to me either. Or how about this website? It's a little more business oriented, but you get to this site, Solar Winds. What do they do? And what will you solve next? That's their little headline, I guess, for lack of a better word. There's some guy in sneakers sitting there in a darkened control room and looking at his laptop. What do they do? It's not real obvious. Or how about this beauty? What are you supposed to do on this page? I'm going to give you a little backstory. These people were advertising on Google AdWords, and they were using more than $100,000 a month budgets to drive people to the homepage of their site, which is this page. And what are you supposed to do here? Take a guess, because it's not real obvious. Look at the lady who's looking at the laptop, look at the reports, read some of this, maybe call before December 30th because they're supposed to, that's in red. No, actually what they want you to do, believe it or not, is to click on this iPhone to start their 30-day free trial. Hey, raise your hand if that was real obvious to you, because it sure wasn't to me. And even big companies screw this up all the time. For example, 1-800-Flowers, of course, they sell flowers. This is the product detail page on their website, which means you have to go through this in order to pay them money. And even on this page, it's not clear exactly what you're supposed to do. They actually want you to click this little button that says select delivery date. And it's one of the most benign, visually uninteresting things on that whole page. There are a lot of very strong visual elements. So they asked us, hey, can you redesign our product detail page to make it really clear what you're supposed to do? You guys ready? I want you to just, as soon as you can figure it out, raise your hand on this redesign page. What do they want you to do? Ready? 3, 2, 1, boom. Now, hopefully you're smiling, yep, and you get the thumbs up from some folks, and you're thinking, gee, Tim, that's obvious. Push the green button that says view delivery dates. And I want it to be that obvious. I want you to think, is your site that obvious? I personally call this the mother-in-law test. My mother-in-law is a wonderful person, not the most technically savvy in the world, but if she can understand it, then it's clear enough. So that's your standard, okay? Is it obvious? The obvious standard. Now, we used a little bit of magic to illustrate this a little different way. Here's the same 2 pages, but with some attention software overlaid on them to kind of tell you what the attention hotspots are going to be on the page. So on the original page, the biggest hotspot was on the vase of flowers, which is what you're buying. But there were other hotspots all over the page that had nothing to do with what they wanted you to do, which was to press this button to select delivery dates. And when we ran the newly designed page through it, you can see the attention all bouncing between the hero shot or the image that they want you to buy, and most of the attention's on the big fat button that you're supposed to press. So that's obvious. So you don't want attention leaks on your page. That's really the key. It should be clear what you want somebody to do. Let's talk about the second deadly sin, which is too many choices. I'm going to show you another e-commerce site, and I want you to tell me what you're supposed to do first. Now, there's plenty of stuff to do, but what do you do first? This is the homepage of the Adorama photography equipment catalog. You have all kinds of choices, rotating banner ads. Maybe it's to go here on the menu on the left and go down to this one that says underwater so you can, capture beautiful underwater shots. Maybe you should buy this walk stool to sit on while you're taking pictures. But maybe this one, it's $10 more, might be better. But what exactly are you supposed to do? It's hard to tell. Do you know how many clickable links there are on this page? I'm sorry, I know we only have an hour, so I'm just going to give you the answer at the bottom there. There are 146 clickable links on this page. Too much choice, people. And if I ask you a simple question, do they sell computers? Can you answer that right now? You'd be hard pressed to. You're looking at that page and deciding whether they do. Well, here's a much better example. This is the body of the homepage for one of their competitors. And if I ask you, do they sell computers? You'd say, yeah, it's obvious. There's not too much choice. They probably all sell, or both companies sell about 100,000 plus unique items. But if I ask you, do they sell TVs? Yes. Do they sell digital cameras? Yes. They've done a great job taking all that choice and breaking it down into high-level categories, which are represented by a collage of all of the types of things in that category. For example, the digital cameras are both DSLRs or point and shoots. Pro audio is a stereo microphone and a mixing board. So it's clear that they're not individual products, that they're actually representing categories. So you can quickly orient yourself and find the information sent or the right path to follow. So the point isn't to get me to buy on your homepage, it's to get me closer to my goal. And by having too much choice, you're actually paralyzing me from doing that. Let's go on to deadly sin number 3, and that is asking for too much information. We had a client once, and they sold debt negotiation leads. So if you're in deep credit card debt, they would sell it to a company that would help you negotiate down a lower amount with your creditors. And I know it's hard to read, it's low resolution here, but I'm gonna read you the fields that were on this form. First name, spouse, last name, email, home phone, work phone, cell phone, best time to call, state, unsecured debt amount, and so on. That's a lot of information. And we asked them, well, what do you actually do with this information once somebody fills out the form? You know what they said? We call them, because we have to validate every lead before we sell it to these debt negotiation companies, and we don't want them to think we offer them crappy leads. And so we said, what do you need to do? What information do you need to know whether to continue the conversation and whether to call me back? Do you notice how that's a very different question that I just asked? And that's what ended up on this page. First name, last name, email, and phone. That's just contact information. What state, because US states have different laws regarding this, and the amount of debt. If you don't have more than a certain amount, we don't even want to talk to you. Now, there's a lot of things that have changed on this page, but that form, which one looks more imposing? The one I just showed you, or the new one with a lot less information? It's clearly this second one. Here's the punchline. Their performance improved by 51% by having this shorter form, and that was worth $48 million a year to this company. In other words, they were paying money to get people to come to this landing page, and if it resulted in more leads, they just made pure profit dollars off of that. So often, a small tweak to your website or your landing pages can make them much more powerful in terms of their return on investment and their profitability. Here's another example. We had a client called Hearing Planet, and they sold hearing aids. And they were actually not selling anything on their first page. It was just to get you to download a very useful guide, the buyer's guide to hearing aids. But look at the information they were asking for in order to download this guide. Now, kind of raise your hand when you see something wrong. They were asking for first name, last name, street address, city, state. I don't see too many hands yet. Email, daytime phone, alternate phone. Wow, okay, thanks for the raised hand. So remember, what is the action on this landing page? What do they actually want you to do? They want you to download something, right? And look at what they're asking for, all of this other information. So what's the minimum of information that you can ask for in order to allow me to get that download? Go ahead and type that in. I'm going to wait a second into the chat. What's the minimum of information we can ask for and still be able to get the download. Okay, I'm saying name and email, name, contact number, full email, name. Oh boy. I thought we were going to have a good webinar here, but I think you guys are all infected with a deadly disease, and I don't mean COVID. You're all infected with greedy marketer syndrome because you want this information. Give me information, name, email. No, folks, it's a freaking download. Let me just download it. You don't need any information, but we're so conditioned to ask for stuff. And so it's not, if it's not actionable, why are you even asking for it? So we couldn't convince them to take off all the information. So we at least convinced them to get rid of the street address, because why do you need the street address? What are you going to do? Kind of knock on my door and go, knock, knock, knock. Tim, did you get that download that you downloaded? We just wanted to check. Right? Or are you going to call me and ask me if I got the download? I mean, none of that stuff makes sense. So we took off the information regarding street address. Now you can see, again, it's a less imposing form. Instantly, their business jumped 17%. Now, I can argue that, again, you don't need anything here, not even an email, because if you have a high quality download that's serving as a useful guide to me, then the next thing I'm going to do on the very last page of the guide is you say, hey, let's schedule a free hearing test nearby. That's actually their next step in doing these leads. Guess what you do then? Then you give up your address, then you give up your contact information, because in order to schedule a hearing test, you have to do that. And you're much more willing to do that. So I ask you, if you have any forms on your site, to think, what are you doing with this information? Is it absolutely necessary? Ironically, from one of the biggest companies in online marketing, Adobe, this was their page for downloading a white paper on rethinking the role of landing pages and conversion. And ironically, they asked for about a dozen different fields in order to give me this really awful 3-page white paper. So the height of irony, look at all these fields they're asking for. All right, well, hopefully I've convinced you to ask for a minimum of information. And if you do have to ask for all of it, do it in stages. Do it via what I call progressive disclosure. You don't need all that information all at once. What do you need to complete the current transaction that page is about? What is the minimum of information you need to complete the current transaction? Make a note of that. All right, moving along, too much text. I once ran across this page, and it was obviously very heavily optimized for search engines because they just keyword stuffed it. This is about Grand Canyon tours in the US. And you can see, hey, we offer 180 tours of the Grand Canyon: bus, airplane, helicopter, train, raft, Jeep, and so on. And all of this is written in correct English with proper sentence structure. And I'm sure your 7th grade grammar teacher would be very proud, but you can't do that on the web. People are just not going to sit still and read a whole book while sitting in front of their computer monitor. We have the attention span of a lit match. And the same is true. This is actually an e-commerce site where they sell these rack-mounted computer servers. Can you believe this? And they want you to read all of this information. It's crazy making. So we've seen this in study after study, as well as our own results. Cut the text back, way back. Bullet points, summaries, clickable links. That's what the web is for, hypertext. It's not for reading a book online. And get rid of all the adjectives, all the unsubstantiated claims, write in factual language so I don't have to have my BS force field up in order to, if you start writing in marketese and say things like, we are the world's greatest solution for, now I have to discount that by 99% and call BS on you. So take away the work, take away the text, what you'll get is higher retention of information and a higher propensity to act. So go through and strip mine your site and get rid of all the unnecessary text. Now, having said that, sometimes some of what you sell or want people to consume is very detailed. Let them ask for it. Say, see details. And if they click on that link, then give them all of the detailed information. But for most people, it should be summary format and very compact and to the point. Number 5, not keeping your promises. Now, this is strictly not a problem of just the landing page or the website alone, but I'm going to talk about it. Let's say you went to Google and you typed in best digital camera. And you got an ad like this. It says best digital camera, get expert reviews of top cameras from Consumer Reports, which is a very well-respected, non-commercial consumer organization that rates everything from life insurance policies to cars and refrigerators. So does this make you confident that you might get the information you're looking for about which is the best digital camera? Yeah, it makes me confident. So let's click on this ad and we end up on this page. And it says top rated digital cameras, over 56 models tested. And then it has this, actually two of these red buttons. And the buttons say join today. Join today. What are they really saying? To translate that for you, they're really saying, give me your money. Join today means give me your money and then I'll give you the information that I promised. Now that's not really fair, is it? Because what were they promising? Let's go back to the ad. Expert reviews of top digital cameras. They didn't say anything about joining today or paying money, right? So what you have is this huge disconnect from the upstream experience to what's going on the website. And you really don't want to have that. It's a dropped ball. It's a mistake. So how could we have connected these two a little bit better? Well, we can change the ad or the website or both to get them to be aligned better. For example, I could change this ad to say, get expert reviews of top cameras with your subscription. Now, that would have fewer people clicking on the ad because they know it's going to be paid, but at least they're calibrated to expect to pay once they click on the ad. So that would make it better. Okay, what could we have done on the page to make it more inviting? How about a sample review? How about a review of last year's model that doesn't even exist and can't be bought anymore, but in full detail so you can see the kind of depth and quality that these reviews contain? Here, get your sample review, then subscribe and get access to all 56 models tested. So keep your promises. That's the bottom line. You have to connect what the upstream experience is to what's happening on your landing page and on your website. Make sure that you don't do those in isolation. Hey, I created my ads and I've created my website, and their two are not connected and you're not keeping your promise. All right, let's move on to number 6. Number 6 is visual distractions. Now, visual distractions come in a lot of different flavors, but the main point here is that our vision is by far our most dominant sense. Over half of your brain is devoted to processing visual information of some sort. And often, if we don't prioritize things visually, we have problems. Here's an example. This doesn't even look like a page because it's made up of a bunch of huge graphics. And the text on this page, do you see how big it is? This may be the biggest text I've ever seen on a website, by the way, which is why I picked this example. But the text is in itself a form of graphics because it's so striking and so large. It's not really there to transmit information. It's actually competing with other visual elements on this page. Or how about this website? Anybody want to buy some weightlifting equipment? No, this website is horrible. It's competing for your attention. Now, this was done around Christmas, which is why they have apparently the green and red color theme. But to get the full effect of this, you have to understand that there's driving directions in the middle here. This text is actually blinking reverse yellow, on and off. So this is the web equivalent of somebody shooting a machine gun in your face. It basically just makes you want to leave the website. And it was obviously not designed by anyone who's a grown-up even. This was probably designed by a 12-year-old, I'm afraid. But visual distractions aren't just on static sites. A lot of times they contain motion. Here's an example. I came to this website and this question popped up, this window. And it says live chat. Jane says, hello, how may I help you? Well, this box popped up on the left side of the screen and then it moved to the right. And as it moved across, I'm trying to hit this little corner part that says no thanks with the little X, and I couldn't catch up with it. So this box moved from left to right until it hit the edge of the screen, and then it bounced off that edge and started going back. And eventually I was able to hit the no thanks and close it out. Now think about this. This is a visual interruption. If I wanted to do something with chat, this nice lady down here says she's available for online chat. Anyway, I didn't need to be interrupted on the way in order to know that you had chat. Besides, how do I know if I have questions if I didn't actually have a chance to look at this page behind the chat pop-up? So this is bad on a number of different levels. By the way, to be clear, I'm not saying pop-up boxes are bad. They're really good, especially if they're exit pop-ups. If somebody's about to leave your page anyway, and you want to stop them or help them or get additional information from them or have them answer a survey question, chances are they're never coming back. So go ahead and use exit pop-ups, but entry pop-ups are really a bad idea in most cases. Let me ask you a quick question. What does this company sell? Most of you are probably thinking televisions. How about now? What do they sell? Oh, vacuum cleaners and computers. No, what do they sell? Appliances. No, what do they sell? Xbox systems. If you have a 15-year-old son like me, you'd know that right away. What do they sell? The shame of not having a smartphone. Okay, now my real question for you is, what was behind the question mark on the screen on the last slide? I bet none of you can answer that because you were paying attention to the rotating banner ad. But if we go back, it was the Olympus Tough digital camera. And it was there on the previous screen and the previous screen and the previous screen. It was there the whole time and you never saw it because the visual rotating banner took up too much of your attention. We can't not look at things that are quickly changing in our visual field. That's how our ancestors were able to survive. You have to pay attention to things that are moving in your visual field. You can't not look. So I talk about the information, the visual hierarchy on your site. You might want to write this down because it's not in the slides. The visual hierarchy is text, graphics, and motion. Again, that's text, graphics, and motion. In the presence of graphics, text will not be read. In the presence of motion, even graphics won't be looked at. So be very, very careful with visual distractions on your page. How can you make it very boring and plain so that you control the attention on your page? Don't dress it up with too much decoration and don't introduce motion unless it's absolutely necessary. All right, I'm going to talk next about the final deadly sin, which is lack of trust. Now, it's hard to get trust online because here, even on a Zoom meeting, at least we're face to face. You can see what I look like. You can hear the sound of my voice. But on your website, total strangers are showing up. You don't know them. They don't know you. And so you still have to establish trust before they're going to act. Let me give you an example of how not to do it. This is an e-commerce site. And on a big monitor, this is the scroll line. This is all you can see at the top of the page. At the bottom, they have fantastic trust symbols. We accept Visa, we ship by UPS, and so on. All of these great trust symbols. The problem is 85% of people will never see those trust symbols because they're not going to scroll down the page to see them. Now, an extreme counterexample is this PETSMART site. This was taken a while ago, but normally what you see in the upper left here is the logo of the website. And they actually put a safe shopping seal, what's called Hacker Safe and now called McAfee Secure, in the upper left. Now they compensated for that by moving their logo to the center and making it very large. But you instantly get this two-part message, which is we're safe to shop with, we're PetSmart. And so they're putting the trust symbol ahead of their brand, which is a very strong stance to take. But trust comes in different flavors. These people sell grand pianos. In fact, they're the largest seller of grand pianos on the East Coast of the US near the Washington, D.C. area. Would you buy a grand piano from this company? No. You can go and check out their site after the webinar, rickjonespianos.com. They were spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year on Google to drive traffic to this page. Can you believe it? You lose instant credibility by having a website which is horrible, which just the visual look and feel of it doesn't allow you to trust it. So be very, very careful with the production quality of your own site and what engenders trust. Here's another example. Do you trust this company, Smartsheet? I don't either, because there's nothing that that tells you to trust them. They have pictures of their people. Actually, they have 3 people. They're actual real people, as you can see here near the bottom. But why would you trust them? They're just, okay, you're happy people and you work for this company. How about this? This is something I found several pages into their site. They work with Netflix, Groupon, ESPN, Hilton, and so on. And this was buried deep in their site. And then nobody can find this information. Instead of they're happy people on their site. So if you have this information, you need to promote any kind of trust symbols to where they're visible. Here's another example. This company we worked with does DVD duplication. And they have a quote form on the left, but they have all of these client logos on the right. So if you're thinking about having custom DVDs made, you go, wow, they're working with Microsoft and Nike and AT&T and Walmart. Of course they can work with my little company and get the job done. The only question is, are they too expensive? But nobody's questioning whether they can get the job done. Do you think this kind of stuff matters? I know it does. This page did 58% better than the version without the logos, the original page that we tested. So trust matters, and it can come in different forms. For example, testimonials of media mentions. Now, this company Real Age, they have this free Real Age test, and they are able to determine your real age based on how well you've maintained your body. But no one's ever heard of them, and you're going to turn over medical information just to get that real age score? Probably not. But you've probably heard of some of these media mentions. These are media brands that have spent hundreds of millions of dollars drumming their information and their brand into your head. So if you can borrow their trust, you can get results like this too. 40% more people filled out the quiz if we added the media mentions as a form of trust. So to recap, the 7 deadly sins: unclear call to action. Again, you'll get this deck afterwards. Too many choices, asking for too much information, too much text, not keeping your promises, visual distractions, and lack of trust. And I want you now to raise your hand if you recognize one or more of these on your website. And you can raise them just on the video. I can see you guys. So go ahead and raise your hand. I can see you. How many of you are sinners? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. Thank you for being honest. The ones that didn't raise your hand, I don't believe you. I think you're just being shy. I've never met a perfect website that didn't have one of these deadly sins. Just some quick background. Bernadette mentioned this. Feel free to look me up anytime you want. I'm very sociable. I just wrote a new book. I don't know if you can see this on the little video of me, called Unleash Your Primal Brain. And it's all about evolutionary psychology, how our brain came to be the way it is. And it covers everything from sleep to memory to culture to language, gender differences. It's basically an operating manual for your mind. And it's definitely useful for marketing if you want to understand how to really influence people. The other book that Bernadette mentioned is my landing page optimization book. This is the 2nd edition. And this one is kind of considered the Bible in the field of conversion rate optimization or making websites more effective. Again, I'm very easy to get a hold of. There's my contact information. You'll get all this in the deck. And this is the Rotarians did this with WSI and come up with a special offer for you guys if you're interested in having someone take a very hard, honest look at your website and what's wrong with it. So if you have problems diagnosing these 7 deadly sins or many of the other issues with your site, please do this 100% satisfaction guaranteed review through WSI and Site Tuners. You could actually save $100 by following this link and mentioning Bernadette and her email address. Now I'm going to make it even better for you. If you like what I've had to say, I'm going to do the first 3 of these myself. I will personally do your reviews. So if you're interested in that, I suggest you go to that URL and sign up as soon as possible if you want me to do it. All right, well, I've tried to go through this at New York speed, as we say, so we leave some time for questions. Please type your questions into the chat, and then they'll be moderated, and I'll answer as many of them as I can by the end of the hour. Okay, so thank you for listening. I'm going to flip this back to Bernadette.
All right, exciting presentation there, Tim. Thank you very much. I'm sure everybody here is in agreement with me. We have a few questions. And yes, I'd like to say, before we get into the questions, 4 out of 15 people got the answer of nothing versus ask for name and email. So maybe that's a good score. What do you think, Tim?
A much higher average than most people. I've had sessions with hundreds of people that nobody said nothing.
All right, well, 4 people said nothing, so that was great. Okay, so from Susan, first question. Are web designers that we hire to design our websites just standing data entry models which have several fields, some of which are unnecessary?
So again, I talk about this in my book, and the book is called Landing Page Optimization, and I have what I call the form field test, and it's a 2-part question you have to answer. Is this information absolutely necessary to complete the current transaction?
Right.
If you can't answer yes to both of those, then it shouldn't be on the form. It's that simple.
Is that good enough, Susan? You can just type a yes or no in it, in the chat. Second question from Ziel.
Mm-hmm.
He asks, what are the best tools to use to measure and analyze changes that I make to a website? Can I answer that question?
Well, can you ask that again? I'm not sure I understood it.
What tool should he use to measure whether the change is good or not?
Well, it's the response rate of your site, whether a higher percentage of people are taking the action that you want them to take. It could be to buy something, fill out your form, maybe even pick up the phone and call you. That's a valid
Correct.
response mechanism. It could be to download something, to watch an instructional video. So if a higher percentage of people are doing that, then your website is better. It's an objective test. There's no mystery to it. It's not guessing.
Yeah, and well, what we should do, and then the next step, if you really want to test, is to run ads, 2 different ads to both pages.
Yes. Now, I suspect that for most
complicated.
companies on the webinar, there's not going to be enough traffic for you to test 2 different versions of your site simultaneously. So you have to just make all of the changes that you think are going to improve it and hope for the best. If you have higher levels of traffic, you can do what's called A/B split testing and try 2 different versions of your content to see which one performs better.
Okay. And question number 3 from Cyril. How do we apply these lessons to more informational websites, like the ones used by Rotary clubs? In other words, how do you apply these 7 deadly sins lessons?
Well, they should still be some of the things I've talked about: visual distractions and priorities on your page, making calls to action clear. Those are universal. That's to reduce friction and have a much better user experience. Even if your goal is just for them to consume information, how you organize your menus, how prominently you make your buttons, what your menu labels say, all of that can be improved for clarity. And every website wants you to do something, whether again it's to consume information, to download things, to watch content on video. So think about what you actually want people to do on your site and start with that. Making kind of beacons that are more prominent for them to find that information.
1 action per page. Is
Not
that a fair
necessarily.
enough
You could
answer?
have
No?
alternatives. You can say, look, people learn in different ways. I might want to listen to a podcast. Somebody else might want a text transcript of it so they can look through it quickly. So you make it convenient for me to get the information in whatever format I want, and it's okay to have different calls to action.
Okay, good. So for those three questions, do you have anything further to ask on that?
You'd like me to
No, not you, Tim.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
asking the attendees if they want to clarify.
Yes,
any
please.
of
This
their
is your
questions.
chance to ask.
Yeah.
Please type them into the chat. And
All right. And Lara asks, what tips do you have for Rotary Club website, which is different from a company website? And that question 3 and question 4 is pretty much the same in the sense that Rotary website, I had a view of it. I don't think Tim had a view of it. It is very heavy informational, and you have to ask the one question that Tim has repeated many times: what do you want people to do on
and then I would
this
say,
page?
yeah, and I would add something that this is true of most websites. You don't just have one audience. You usually have multiple audience segments. What's their relationship to your site? So for example, for a Rotary website, you might say existing members or prospective members. You might want somebody to join. They care about very different things than your existing members. Existing members might want to renew their membership, find out about benefits or special discounts, or hear about special events like this webinar. So again, even within that specific role, they might have different tasks that they're interested in accomplishing. So basically decompose your website based on roles and the specific tasks that people are trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Good. Next question.
I think that, oh, question 5, right. I am at the stage where I need to create a web page for my business. Can you recommend a suitable provider?
Well, I don't really get into the technical level of where to host your site or something like that. I would say that for just about any small business, most of the world runs on WordPress websites, so that technology can do just about anything, and it's very extensible with different modules that give you more advanced capabilities. So start off building it on top of WordPress, and you'll find a whole ecosystem of people around the world that can support the building and maintenance of it. Now, again, what you build is important, and not just the platform that it runs on.
Yeah. So from Siobhan, without a text-dense website, how do you optimize for search engines? Where do you go to find the best or the most impactful words, phrases, or to get ourselves on page one of Google?
Yeah, so a couple of comments there. For those of you not familiar, search engine optimization is getting ranked highly in the search results. So your website comes up for a certain keyword at the top of the list. And if you don't have that top visibility, chances are you're not going to be seen if you're buried further down the page or on the second page. The thing is, most people think they can kind of cheat Google and figure out a way to scam their way to the top with search engine optimization. It's not true. It's very hard to get up to the top of the rankings. And Google is now increasingly paying attention to the quality of your website. So it's not about stuffing keywords into your website. It's about having a good user experience. They're watching whether people stay on your site, how much content they consume, whether they buy or click buttons. They're watching all of that. So a good user experience is a good Google experience. Don't let the tail wag the proverbial dog. Don't let search engine optimization limit you making a good website for your visitors.
Yeah, focus on the user intent. Focus on the, like Tim said, the categories, and focus on why people are coming to your website.
Yeah, otherwise, if you just use artificial tricks to stuff keywords into your page, it reminds me of the joke about, did you hear about the search engine optimizer that went to the bar, restaurant, gastropub establishment? that's keyword stuffing. You know, you're just trying to say restaurant and bar in a lot of different ways. So don't do that. That sounds awkward, and it's Google will not reward that.
Yeah, Google has gotten smart.
Very.
The good news is that Google hasn't done any major updates in the last, 3 years? But yeah, because all the focus is on user intent.
And again, I want you to think of your website or your landing pages as a kind of a force multiplier. All of your marketing activities, whether it's word of mouth or offline advertising or online advertising, eventually is going to end up on your website or on your landing pages. So if you make those more efficient, all of your marketing is going to have much higher payoff. Okay, you have to fix your website. And the best way to do that, again, is to focus on the needs of your visitors and not of your company.
Oh, question 7 from Robert. I need to create an e-commerce website. Where do I start and how do I ensure that I do not commit these sins?
Well, you're certainly welcome to, I mean, the sins apply to e-commerce websites. I use some of those as examples here.
Yes.
So you have to, again, where to start, it's the same platform. I mean, for example, WordPress should be able to, has a bunch of e-commerce plugins. You can easily set up an e-commerce store. Some other extra challenges of e-commerce websites is helping people find the right products. If you have a lot of products, you don't want to overwhelm them with information. So guiding them to the right products or limiting their choice of products at any given point to just a few is probably a good idea. I know a lot of e-commerce sites make the mistake of saying, we're the Amazon of our category. We sell women's shoes and we have 70,000 different women's shoes that we can drop ship to you tomorrow. Well, if you've ever talked to a woman, that's not helping anybody. 70,000 shoes, I'm not going to look through them all. Okay, so guiding people to the right products and having clear choices in your own merchandising and product selection is also very important for e-commerce. Don't have too many similar items that are at the same price point or kind of look the same.
All right, so question number 8 from Leisha. Any general advice about the use of colors or best graphic to use to draw attention?
So the important thing is to use what I call a complementary color scheme. You have neutral colors and some toned down colors, and then you need something on the opposite side of the color wheel that is going to stand out and be about contrast. So it's not about any specific color, it's about how unique it is on the page and how striking it is compared to everything else. For example, light blue is on one side of the color wheel, and the other side would be orange. So if you have a nice, relaxed light blue site and then all of a sudden an orange button on the page, you're going to notice that. And it's not just about colors on your website, it's also, like I said, about the other visual distractions. So please get rid of all of those unnecessary graphics, get rid of all of that motion, those sliders and autoplay videos and all of the other visual distractions. Make your site have a quality of Zen-like stillness out of which the call to action naturally arises. If you can describe your site as having Zen-like stillness, you're probably going in the right direction.
And would you say it is fair that, you say Zen-like silence, but is it fair to say that, for instance, a boring website is the best kind of website?
I would say a website in which you don't distract from the intended goals, which is usually a boring website. You just focus on the goals. So they have to be a little more noticeable than the rest of the boring website. You don't have to shout. The difference that I think people don't understand is that when you're trying to attract people to your site, then you should be loud and obnoxious. Banner ads, use them with animation and motion because you're on somebody else's page and you're trying to get my attention. But once you get them to your own site, give them a break. Give them that stillness that I'm talking about. You don't need to keep shouting at them. They're already on your site. Otherwise, you're going to be competing with yourself, which makes no sense.
And I know one of the things that you also say too is you love them with the copy. So use very nice words.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kind and clear. That's what you're looking for. And without any
Yes.
adjectives or anything that you can't back up objectively. So get rid of all that marketing happy talk and just speak plainly.
All right. I think that's it. Is there one more question? Oh, from Larry. What metrics should you use to gauge what aspects of your e-commerce platform requires updating?
Well, I don't think you should necessarily look at the metrics, because what you're going to be looking at is kind of in the rear view mirror. If you're tracking all the activity on your website using web analytics and tracking software, that tells you what happened in the past. But the problems you're trying to solve are ones for the user. And once you change your website, all of those old results don't matter anyway. So you can focus, of course, on the likelihood of buying, on the average order value, on the return buy rate, what percentage of people come back and buy from you again. Those are kind of the keys for e-commerce.
Okay, and then after changes are made, what metrics do you use to monitor and gauge effectiveness of improving the engagement? So
well,
pretty
again,
much.
I think ultimately, if you're a company and you're trying to make money, it needs to be lifetime value of your customer or lifetime profit margin. How many profit dollars did you make? There's lots of ways to improve that. You can sell higher margin items. You can sell more expensive items. You can get more people to your site, or you can get the people coming to buy more frequently. So any of those are fine to optimize because they're going to result in more profit dollars at the end of the day.
All right, I think that's it. So everybody could unmute, and unless Sean, do you have? I'm sorry, Leslie, do you have anything that's going to happen now?
Well, yes, so I would just like to, first of all, it's right on time. Thank you very much, presenters, for us right.
You're welcome.
We appreciate that. A lot of information has been disseminated tonight. I'm sure that there were very many, maybe everybody who participated were guilty of the 7 sins and would have learned how to resolve them. Thank you very much, Tim.
My pleasure.
I think it has been a very informational session. And Tim, I would like to thank you for the time that you've spent with us, the information that you have disseminated, strongly supported by Bernadette. Thank you both for your presentations, much appreciation. And I would also like to thank the district team, the communications PI team, for putting on this presentation tonight. Very, very thoughtful of presenting this to us this evening. I'd like to thank all participants for spending 60 minutes with us and gaining information on your website conversions. Once again, and of course, Sean for his sterling performance in the background. Thank you very much.
And if anybody wants to share their updates of their pages that they've done because of this, feel free to share it.
Thanks, Bernadette. Okay, thank you all. It was a pleasure hosting this event. Thank you very, very much. Have a good evening.
Yeah, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Take care.
Right, and if you guys want to hold on also to the link that Sean put at the end of the chat, you know, it is a very worthwhile event. It is a very worthwhile activity, is what I'm trying to say. Because in speaking with site tuners, I've been working with them for a while. When they do an edit on a website, you're looking at minimum 5% increase in ROI. So, and that pays back your investment very easily, very quickly. Christmas is coming, don't delay.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye all. Have a good evening.
Bye now.